Fear not, your Jordan is God's battleground. Greetings, people of God. Welcome to another edition of the Joshua series on battle strategies. My name is Fortune Hortensia Gang. We have been trailing the early moves of Joshua as he took over leadership of the Israelite nation on the departure of Moses. In our last reflection, we dwelt on the specific measures taken by Joshua to gain the attention of the Israelites. We can recall that as soon as Joshua took up office, he heeded to the call for obedience and total dependence on God. We see Joshua instructing the Israelites to prepare themselves spiritually to enter and move towards the promised land, to enter the Jordan and move towards the promised land. We hear him talking with precision about what will happen 3 days ahead of them. And he declares without doubt what God will do. 3 days from today, he says, you will cross the Jordan here to go and take possession of the land your Lord your God is giving you. The Jordan was in flood. There was no bridge. But Joshua told them that God is giving them land across the Jordan to go and occupy for their own. And to the ordinary mind, Joshua's instructions do not quite make sense. But to the Israelites, Joshua's command called for obedience. The outcome was Joshua's business with God. Joshua on his part declared God's instructions without a flicker of doubt. God then played his own part. What did God do? He promised to exalt Joshua in front of the Israelites. The ground was prepared for a move to make history. On Joshua's instructions, the 40,000 man strong squad of the Israelites, ready for battle, crossed the Jordan on dry ground, with the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant standing in the middle of the Jordan. The water had split and covered long distances as soon as the priest stepped foot into the Jordan. The news of what was taking place spread far and wide. Joshua 4:14 says that the day the Lord exalted Joshua in front of all Israel, they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, as they had stood in awe of Moses. As a Christian leader, your rod of power is the heavenly amen of your utterances, reason for which you must stay connected to speak the mind of God. We have asked ourselves why God chose to send the Israelites to enter the promised land through a river in flood. Joshua 5:1 has the answer from God's heart. Now, when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear, and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. Child of God, servant of the Most High God, the Jordan in flood placed in front of the Israelites to cross became an instrument that God had used to spread terror amongst the enemies of Israel. The hearts of their enemies melted, and they lost the zeal to resist the Israelites. The incident opened their eyes to see that they were not treating with ordinary human beings. Our God You are God. Our mighty Father used the Jordan and flood to throw panic amongst the people that Israel had to fight before occupying the promised land. Weapons of war lost their value in the hands of Israelites when they allowed God to handle the battle. 2 Corinthians 10:4-6 says, "The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to God. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete." Were the Israelites heading for the promised land, going where God wanted them to go? The answer is yes. Did God say he will send an angel to accompany them? The answer again is yes. That promise was made through Moses in Exodus 23:1. Did God promise to cause their enemies to panic when they approached them? The answer also is yes. God made that promise in Exodus 23:7. So, we see that God is faithful in his promises. Our lesson from this is that the size of the obstacle we face on our track to serve God should not be a subject of scare. God, in his divine will, has a plan. He will use the obstacle you are facing to exalt you before men and pave the way for your ministry. As long as you have responded to the call of Matthew 28:18-20, stay connected. Jesus has promised to go with you all the way to the end of the ages. The rest of the journey belongs to God. Be strong. Be determined. Be courageous. And most of all, always be in a state of total obedience. God will defend his name and do the rest for you. He will. He has done it for the others that went before you. He will do it for you. So do not be afraid. Stand firm. Stand up for Jesus. Stand firm. When you find that you don't even have food to eat on your missionary trip, that should not be a reason to panic. The God who has heaven as his throne and the earth as his footstool is watching. The God who has all the trees in the forest is watching. The God who has all the cows on the hills is watching. The God who has all the fish in the sea is watching. And most of all, the God who thunders from heaven to scatter your enemies is watching to make it happen. God bless you. God bless you. Be strong.